If there's one thing episode 3 of The Bad Batch will be remembered for, it's how dark it was. Man, the darkness. Not only the lighting was dark, but the themes. The cloning program seems to be coming to an end, and Tarkin is exploring the possibility of enlisting conscripted soldiers to the Empire. A new army to wreak terror throughout the galaxy, or, in Anakin's words, peace, justice, and security. The effects of Order 66 are still prominent in everyone's minds in what seems like the days or weeks following Order 66. There's one scene in particular in this episode that's darker than the entire series so far, even darker than Order 66, which means it must be pretty damn dark. But what actually happened at the end of this scene? Was it as dark as we originally thought? Who are these troopers? What will they become? And why does the Empire eventually get rid of the clones and decide to go with the conscripted soldiers? That's everything we're talking about today. Lots of darkness, dark. Gotta turn the light on, man. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. The scene I'm talking about takes place on Onderon, when the Empire's new task force is headed to exterminate Saw Gerrera's rebel forces, which they do with ease, slaughtering each and every resistance fighter in their way. As the rebels attempt to flee in an LAAT patrol gunship, the pilot is shot, bringing the ship back to ground. And then our new Imperial troopers are faced with a moral dilemma. The mission is to exterminate all of Saw Gerrera's rebels. Take no prisoners, comrades. Little Call of Duty reference there. The ridiculously heavily armored soldiers with they got the flamethrower and the blasters and the sniper, just like a bunch of dudes just sitting there in front of them. Anyway, they stand face to face, not with rebel soldiers, but with civilians, seeking safe passage away from the war and terror of the aftermath of the Clone Wars. Crosshair mercilessly kills the final remaining rebel and then faces the innocent civilians. He quickly makes his decision.
Then you're of no use to the Empire.
He raises his blaster and then this dude intervenes.
What are you doing?
What a hero, this guy. He argues that Gerrera's fighters are dead, and these people are civilians, and they should be spared, not slaughtered. Crosshair replies,
Those weren't our orders.
to which this dude says,
Forget our orders. This is wrong.
this guy is a human and Crosshair is a clone, and we can really see the distinction in this scene. Clones were designed and created to follow orders. The inhibitor chip is making him do this. He's lost all sense of judgment. Good soldiers follow orders, and the clones are extremely efficient in doing so. Conscripted soldiers, however, have their own opinions, their own morals, and possibly their own agenda, which I guess is what the clones had before Order 66, before the chips in their brains turned them all into murdering madmen. Before they were just, good at killing droids. Now it's everyone. But with a conscripted soldier, even if they receive an order, there's no guarantee they'll follow it. But unfortunately, this guy makes the mistake of turning his back, saying he and the other conscripts in the elite squad aren't going to comply. They signed up to be soldiers, not an execution squad. And disregarding Crosshair, he tells the others they're going to detain the civilians and bring them in for questioning. But Crosshair, of course, is having none of it. He's a clone, he's in charge, and good soldiers follow orders. He does what needs to be done. And he shoots the trooper, who just minutes earlier aboard the shuttle on the way here questioned why the Empire put Crosshair in charge in the first place. We get a precursor to the events of the original trilogy. He argued it's time for a change, that if the Empire are looking to sign up conscripted soldiers instead of clones, then something was up. Something needed to change, which foreshadows what happens over the next 10 to 20 years with, the growing power of the Empire and the end of the cloning program on Kamino. But why would the Empire decide to move away from using clones? Why did the Imperials describe the cloning program as an expensive relic of the past, having seen the clones' efficiency and effectiveness over the course of the Clone Wars? I mean, clone troopers were responsible for defeating gigantic droid armies and then slaughtering almost every Jedi in the galaxy. Stormtroopers, on the other hand, were defeated by a small village of teddy bears. Okay, so I think we can all agree clone troopers are way better soldiers than stormtroopers and conscripted soldiers. They get the job done. They're better in combat, all around more efficient and more capable. So I think there's a few reasons for why the Empire moved away from the clone program eventually. First of all, the cost. Developing clones through the Kamino cloning program was an incredibly expensive operation to maintain. The Empire intended to have the largest army in the galaxy, always at full strength and ready for action. The clones, however, were only really created for a specific conflict. Of course, Palpatine was the mastermind behind the entire operation and the reason the Kaminoans created the clones, and even if millions can be created, they can only be used over a few years before their accelerated aging takes over, and there's a need for more new clones, which means way more money and more cost. Also, in the Bad Batch, we get the mention of how Jango Fett's DNA used as the original clone template is degrading, meaning if the Empire were to maintain a clone army for decades to come, they'd need to find a new candidate to be used as a DNA template and then replace this candidate every few decades or as often as needed, which I think comes with a lot of risks. It's a much lengthier program creating clones, and although you get the benefits of efficiency, the upkeep to maintain their strength and their numbers is incredibly costly. And another reason for the change, I think, is to modify the Empire's public image. Remember, the clones are the face of war. Even if they're the heroes of the Republic, they're also the dudes who slaughtered the Jedi, and a lot of people would know and remember that. At this point in the timeline, the Empire is trying to distinguish itself away from the Republic. Palpatine is promising safety throughout the galaxy and a secure society, inverted commas there, meaning he'd want to give the Empire a new image away from the war and terror of the Clone Wars. So I think that's part of the reason why the Empire does eventually shift to conscripted soldiers, and another reason, the benefit of a conscription program over a cloning program is that it gives a lot of people jobs and employment. You'd have to think, especially in this time of war, there'd be a lot of poverty and not much opportunity for income throughout the galaxy. So the Empire comes in, suddenly people look up to the Empire because they're able to provide that. They give people jobs, they make people soldiers. There's, dozens, if not hundreds of roles within the Empire. So suddenly there's a lot of demand for a workforce and a lot of people get employed, making people happy, they can have families, and that's that. So there's a few reasons why the Empire will eventually transition to the conscript program, although I'm sure this will be further explored and explained in future Bad Batch episodes. I really can't wait to see what happens on Kamino, the fall of Kamino perhaps, and what the Kaminoans are up to in the background with their experimental cloning program. But I wanted to talk about this prototype elite squad and who they actually are, or rather, what they'll become. Towards the end of the episode, Tarkin comments on how this squad of conscripted soldiers, led by the clone Crosshair, succeeded in taking down Saw Gerrera's camp, where Clone Force 99 failed earlier on. Tarkin was impressed by the skills and the efficiency of Clone Force 99 in the training simulation, however, they failed to follow the orders of completing this mission. Tarkin was, however, impressed with this elite squad's efforts and leaves Rampart in charge of the operation on Kamino. And I think it's likely we'll see this squad of troopers expanded into a larger operation in the coming episodes. And I think their current armor is a real giveaway for what they'll evolve into. So obviously at the moment, the Empire's troops are still coming out of Kamino, which is why these conscripts are wearing clone armor, right? Although, don't you think it looks a little reminiscent of some armor we're more familiar with? Death Troopers, or rather the Death Squad, specifically trained troopers assigned as bodyguards for Imperial higher-ups and also assigned to special ops missions, such as assassinations. We saw that explored in Rogue One especially. Even though it's early days, in the coming seasons or episodes of the Bad Batch, it seems likely this squad will evolve into what eventually becomes the Death Troopers. And with the end of this scene, Crosshair orders the conscripted troopers to slaughter the remaining civilians, and they do just that off screen. We get the sound effects, you hear the blasters, they listen and they kill these innocent people, and that's exactly the type of order that would be given to Death Troopers. Merciless killing machines. I've also seen some people speculating about them evolving into Shadow Troopers, but I really think the green visor is a giveaway. My bet is on the Death Troopers. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Why do you think the Empire eventually decided to go with conscripts over clones? And what do you think this elite squad will evolve into? Lots more Bad Batches on the way, so you can stick around for that, and also check out one of these videos here I've made in the past few weeks, and go follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and join my Discord for lots more Star Wars gaming, news, updates, Easter eggs, everything else. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.
Stay bombastic.